How does ADHD affect dietary habits? And how can you get a picky eater to try healthier foods? If you've ever asked either of these questions, then you are definitely in the right place because that's what we're going to be talking about today. Welcome back to the ADHD Thrive Institute's YouTube channel. Today, we're diving into a topic that many parents find challenging. Understanding how ADHD affects dietary habits, especially when dealing with picky eaters. Children with ADHD often experience sensory sensitivities that make certain textures or flavors really overwhelming, leading to picky eating. Plus, impulsivity can lead to irregular eating patterns where kids may overeat or they may skip meals depending on their activity or how focused they are on a task. These challenges are compounded by the fact that medications commonly used to treat ADHD can suppress appetite, and that complicates an already tricky relationship with food. The combination of ADHD and picky eating presents a unique set of challenges. It can be tough to ensure that your child is getting the necessary nutrients their bodies need. Today, we'll explore practical strategies to address these challenges, helping you create a balanced diet that accommodates your child's needs and preferences. So, let's start by answering the following question. What is the connection between ADHD and picky eating? Or in other words, why are so many kids with ADHD also picky eaters? So first of all, many children with ADHD have heightened sensory sensitivities, like I mentioned, which means they can be particularly sensitive to the textures, the colors, and tastes of various foods. So for instance, they might find certain food textures like mushy or crunchy foods intolerable, leading them to reject a whole range of potential meals. And this heightened sensitivity can actually make certain foods seem unbearable to them. Now, another reason that so many kids with ADHD are also picky eaters is because of impulsivity. It's a common symptom of ADHD, and that plays a role in how children with the disorder actually eat. These kids might grab whatever is most immediately appealing or convenient and not give it a second thought. And they often favor high sugar and high fat foods that provide instant gratification, that dopamine hit, but are nutritionally poor. And this impulsiveness can also lead to irregular eating patterns where they might overeat one day, but barely touch food the next day. And of course, another possible reason many kids with ADHD are picky eaters is because many ADHD medications affect appetite and metabolism. These medications often suppress hunger during the day, leading to inadequate nutrient intake and then overeating later when the medication wears off, usually in the evening. This is exactly what happened with my son when he was on ADHD medication. And this can disrupt that normal eating pattern and make it difficult to maintain a balanced diet. Understanding these factors really help explain why picky eating is more common among individuals with ADHD. Sometimes I think we assume ADHD kids just dislike the flavor or are just trying to be difficult. But really, the picky eating is instead often a reaction to a sensory overload or a side effect of medication. And when you actually start to recognize this, it can help us as parents or caregivers develop more effective strategies to cope with mealtime challenges. So, what nutrients are most important for kiddos with ADHD to get in their diet? When it comes to managing ADHD symptoms, certain nutrients definitely do play a critical role in supporting their body and definitely their brain health. But it's really important to remember that it's not just one nutrient. Ideally, we want our kids to eat a wide variety of foods that come in a wide variety of colors and flavors and textures. This will ensure they get all of the nutrients their bodies need. You know, it's not a one-size-fits-all thing where one single nutrient can be the be-all and end-all solution for ADHD. Now, with that being said, let's break down a few of the nutrients that do come into play specifically with kids with ADHD. First up is omega-3 fatty acids, and these are essential fats. They're particularly EPA and DHA, and they're really important for brain health. They really help enhance cognitive functions and have been shown to reduce symptoms of ADHD, such as hyperactivity and impulsivity. Foods rich in omega-3s include fatty fish like salmon, sardines, mackerel. And if your child isn't a fan of fish, which a lot of those picky eaters out there aren't, you want to consider omega-3 supplements or foods like flax seeds, chia seeds, and walnuts, which are also high in omega-3s. My favorite omega supplement is called Omega Thrive, and I've added the link to it below in the video description. Zinc is another important mineral that's really, really essential for our kids with ADHD. This mineral is important for neurotransmitter function and can help regulate dopamine, which is often imbalanced in children with ADHD. Zinc supplementation has been linked to improved attention and reduced hyperactivity. Great sources of zinc include lean meats, pumpkin seeds, and legumes. Number 3 is iron. Iron deficiency can sometimes mimic some symptoms of ADHD, including decreased attention span and increased fatigue and irritability. So you really want to ensure adequate iron intake through foods like red meat, spinach, because these can help improve these symptoms. Now, don't eat too much spinach because they can produce elevated levels of oxalates, which is a story for another day. Now, another important mineral for kids with ADHD is magnesium. It's often referred to as the calming mineral. It can aid in relaxing the nervous system, which is beneficial for children who have difficulty with sleep or are often anxious. Foods rich in magnesium include leafy greens, nuts, seeds, and whole grains. If you do decide to supplement, my favorite magnesium supplement for kids with ADHD is called Mind Thrive. I like this particular supplement because it contains a different variety of a magnesium. So there's actually 3 different types of magnesiums in it, and it can cross the blood-brain barrier and deliver the magnesium directly to the brain, which, as you can imagine, is super helpful for our kiddos with ADHD. I've added the link to Mind Thrive to the video description below. Now, the final thing I want to highlight is protein. High-quality protein is essential for brain function and can help balance blood sugar levels, reduce those spikes and those crashes that definitely exacerbate ADHD symptoms. So including protein-rich foods in meals and snacks throughout the day can help maintain consistent energy levels and focus. So good sources include eggs, poultry, beans, things like that. So those are some of the most important nutrients, especially for kids with ADHD. So again, we talked about omega-3 fatty acids, zinc, iron, magnesium, and protein. But remember, as I mentioned, the goal is to get all sorts of food into the diet of a child with ADHD. So now you might be thinking, how do I do this, especially with a picky eater? This is a really great question. Don't worry, I'm not going to leave you hanging. How can you get a picky eater to eat a wide variety of foods? In the next couple of minutes, I'm going to share some of my favorite tips and tricks that we have used to help super picky eaters develop more open palates. But before I do that, I want to tell you about a little guy named Levi. When Levi's mum first reached out to me, Levi was only eating a total of 5 foods. He was by far the pickiest eater I had ever worked with. And between you and me, to be honest, I was actually worried I wouldn't be able to help him, that maybe he was too picky. Levi's mum reached out to me not too long ago with an update and let me know he's now eating over 200 foods. He's no longer even considered a picky eater. His mum shared her story here on our YouTube channel. So if you have a picky eater, you definitely want to check it out because I think it will be really encouraging for you. If we can help Levi, I'm confident these tips and tricks can help your family as well. So without further ado, here are 10 quick strategies to help you overcome picky eating with a child with ADHD. Tip number 1, only introduce one new food at a time. Trying more than that can make the experience overwhelming and stressful. You always want to pair those new foods with one familiar food that your child enjoys. Doing this will ensure that their weight does not drop too much. Tip number 2 is do a family food challenge, okay? Write down a new food to try. Place this note in the kitchen and put a check mark each time it is tried. Once the family reaches a certain number of check marks, do something fun as a reward. Just remember though, it can take sometimes 15 to 20 tries before a child's taste buds adapt to those new flavors and new textures. So plan to be a little bit patient and keep trying the new foods, even if no one likes them at first. Tip number 3 is to try new foods during the time of day that a child is actually going to be hungry. This way, they'll be more open and willing to taste those new foods. Are they starving after school? Why don't you try it then? Tip number 4, try to be calm and upbeat during mealtime. Remain calm and positive when things aren't going exactly to plan. When my boys were younger, it was hard. I know, I understand. But I used to encourage them to crunch their food like a bunny rabbit or give that food a lick like a puppy dog, and we would laugh, and it took the tension out of dinner time. For older kids, take a joke book to the table. Share a joke before the meal and for every new food they taste. Tip number 5, use a strategy called food chaining. Food chaining is a technique I commonly use for families inside my program. So in essence, food chaining begins with a food a child already likes. Parents take this food and change the way it is served. So you can change the shape, change the seasoning, change the cooking method. So let's take potato, for example. It can be prepared a million different ways. Don't change the food at first, change the way it's served. Change the texture, the seasonings, include herbs and spices, keep introducing the varieties, and change the shape, seasoning, preparation, deep fry, pan fry, make mash, tots, add spices, combine with sweet potato mash. It's all about changing things slowly and carefully, starting from a base that your child already enjoys. Tip number 6. This is a big one and one that many people don't know. Consider if zinc deficiency could be at play. Many parents don't realize that zinc deficiency can be a big driver for picky eating. So if this is a possible concern, get that checked out. Tip number 7, reduce inflammation in the body. You're probably wondering, what's that got to do with picky eating? When inflammation in the body, the brain, and the gut is reduced, the palate begins to open up, okay? It's amazing to watch. This is exactly what happened with Levi. So to do this, you want to start by removing the top inflammatory foods like gluten, dairy, and soy, as well as artificial flavors, colors, and excessive amounts of sugar. Then replace these foods with all of those good foods I've already talked about: whole fruits and veggies, grass-fed protein, and healthy fats. Clean up the diet and inflammation reduces as well, allowing that palate to open up. I have been amazed time and time again as children start asking for their veggies, not just tolerating them or choking them down, but actually asking for them. Wouldn't that be amazing? Tip number 8, involve the kids in meal planning. When the kids help with the meal planning or the meal preparation, they are more likely to try what they make. Tip number 9, creatively manage sensory issues. If your child has sensory issues with food, experiment with food textures and temperatures. Cook food in different ways until you find a way that your child can eat that food easier. And finally, tip number 10, maintain a normal routine and structure around mealtime. Regular meal and snack times are important to establish predictability. And this is especially important for kids with ADHD because they often thrive on predictable routines. Now, I just want to take a side note. I'm going to add tip number 11, which I didn't think I was going to do. You want to consider elevated levels of cryptopyrroles because if your kid has elevated levels of cryptopyrroles, it can often result in tactile sensitivities, texture sensitivities, light and sound sensitivities, which can then exacerbate picky eating. Okay, I also want to provide a few recipes to get you started. So I'm going to give you some simple, nutritious, and kid-approved recipes that avoid common allergens and are still full of taste and enjoyment. The first is a fruit smoothie bowl. My boys love to eat fruit smoothie bowls. To make these, just blend together a base of banana and frozen mango for natural sweetness. You can add some spinach in there for that nutritional boost. They won't even know it's there. You can add in a spoonful of sunflower, almond, or peanut butter for that added protein. You can use coconut milk to achieve a creamy texture, and then top with gluten-free granola and fresh berries for extra fun and extra fiber. Another super easy and kid-friendly option is turkey lettuce wraps. You want to use romaine or butter lettuce as the wrap and fill them with slices of turkey, avocado, julienne carrots for that extra crunch. And these wraps are rich in protein and healthy fats, which are perfect for maintaining energy levels throughout the day. You could also try your hand at homemade fish fingers. I do it all the time in the air fryer. Make these kid-friendly fish fingers with a gluten-free coating. Use cod or salmon cut into strips. Dip them into beaten eggs, then coat them with a mix of crushed gluten-free cornflakes or panko crumbs and nutritional yeast for that cheesy flavor without the dairy. Just make sure that nutritional yeast isn't fortified with folic acid. Folic acid is a story for another day, so make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel to check out any videos that come out on folic acid. Now, you want to bake those until they're golden, and you want to serve them with a side of homemade sweet potato fries and dairy-free yogurt or avocado dip. My boys say these taste exactly like chicken strips, but they're fish. Go figure. Anyway, they're super yum. Another fun, easy recipe that a lot of picky eaters enjoy is homemade trail mix. You can create a fun snack mix with pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, dried apple pieces, and a sprinkle of dairy-free chocolate chips. This snack is easy to assemble and provides a really good mix of healthy fats, protein, and a touch of sweetness. Okay, and one more recipe for you. Veggie hummus pizza. Sounds funny, doesn't it? You want to use gluten-free tortillas as the base for a quick and easy pizza. You can spread a generous layer of hummus, which adds a creamy texture without the dairy. You want to top with sliced bell peppers and cherry tomatoes and sprinkle with dairy-free cheese if you like. You want to toast it in the oven until the edges are crispy and the toppings are warm. This pizza is not only dairy and gluten-free, but also adds a good serving of vegetables and protein. Each of these recipes is designed to be easy to make. We don't want to be spending hours in the kitchen. I can tell you I don't want to be. They're appealing to children and suitable for dietary restrictions associated with managing ADHD symptoms. My boys have tried each of these recipes and really enjoy them, so give them a shot and let me know how you go. Now that we've looked at some recipes, let's talk about how to plan your meals and get ready for cooking. Effective meal planning really can be a game changer, especially when managing ADHD and picky eating habits. It can reduce mealtime stress and ensure nutritional needs are being met. So I'm going to give you some strategies and tips for meal planning and preparation that can make daily meals more manageable and enjoyable. First one is to plan ahead. Start by planning meals for the week. This really helps avoid the stress of deciding what to cook at the last minute, and it ensures you have all the necessary ingredients on hand. Consider creating a meal calendar that includes simple, balanced meals that cater to your child's dietary needs and preferences. Step 2 is incorporating in a variety. Try to introduce new foods slowly into your child's diet alongside those familiar favorites. This can help expand their palate without overwhelming them. So for instance, if your child likes carrots, you might try adding parsnips to the mix, which are similar in texture, but slightly different in taste. Tip 3 is to choose adaptable recipes. So you want to opt for those recipes that can be easily adapted to accommodate your child's preferences. So things like stir fries, soups, casseroles, they can be really great because you can add or remove ingredients based on what your child likes and needs to avoid. Tip number 4 is involve picky eaters in that meal preparation, as I talked about earlier. This can increase their interest in food. Let them help with safe tasks like rinsing vegetables, stirring the batter, or assembling the ingredients. The more involved they are, the more likely they're going to try the finished dish. You can also use meal preparation time as an opportunity to teach your child about nutrition. Explain how certain foods can help them grow strong, improve their brain function, and help them feel more focused and energetic. Tip number 5 is create a positive environment. Make meal preparation a fun and positive experience. Play their favorite music in the background. Use colorful kitchen tools, or even make a themed food day to make the process even more engaging and less of a chore. And finally, tip number 6, be consistent and stick to a routine when possible. I've already talked about a consistent schedule for meals, but meal preparation is just the same. That preparation times can really help children with ADHD reduce that uncertainty, help their anxiety around eating. This routine also helps build good eating habits and a positive relationship with food. Now, if you've been following me for very long here on YouTube, you know that picky eating is a topic that comes up so often. So I actually have several videos on it. I've included links to these in the video description below. So if you have a picky eater, make sure and give those a watch. We also have a podcast you might find helpful. It's called the Soaring Child Podcast. Check out the link below in the video description. Now, as a recap, in this video, we covered why kids with ADHD are often picky eaters. We looked at key nutrients that kids with ADHD need for optimum brain function. We talked about the 10 strategies to overcome picky eating. We gave you some ADHD-friendly picky eating recipes and 6 meal planning and preparation tips. But the most important thing I want you to know today is that just because you have a picky eater does not mean you will have one in a few months from now. It is possible to overcome picky eating in a child with ADHD, and I'm here to support you along the way. Thank you so much for joining us today as we talked about ways to combat picky eating in kids with ADHD. I hope you have found this video helpful. If you did, remember to hit that like button below and subscribe to our channel. When you do these things, it helps other viewers with kids with ADHD find our videos as well. Let's spread the love across the world. Now, I want to hear from you. What has helped your picky eater? Do you have any additional strategies to share? Do you have any questions for me? Post them in the comments below. But once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.